Have you ever wondered why you feel attracted to a woman who openly expresses dislike or even hatred for men? It sounds contradictory, doesn't it? On one hand, she criticizes or dismisses men entirely, yet on the other, you feel drawn to her energy, her presence, and maybe even her personality. Why does this happen? Is it purely physical attraction, or is there something deeper at play? First, let's acknowledge something important. Human emotions are rarely logical. You don't always fall for someone who seems like the right fit. Sometimes your heart gravitates toward people who challenge your very identity. A woman who outwardly expresses dislike for men might come across as intimidating, but her strong, independent aura can also feel captivating. Her confidence, her sharpness, and her unapologetic nature create a sense of intrigue. You start asking yourself, what's her story? Why does she think this way? And most importantly, is there a chance that you could change her perspective? For many men, this kind of woman represents a challenge. Psychologically, we are often drawn to what feels unattainable. It's not uncommon to romanticize the idea of winning over someone who seems out of reach. Her hostility might feel like a puzzle, a mystery that you're determined to solve. You might think, if I can get her to like me, it'll mean I'm special, different, or better than the others she dislikes. This chase can quickly turn into an obsession because it's no longer about her as a person. It becomes about your need to prove yourself. But is this really love? Or is it validation that you're seeking? Sometimes, the attraction to a woman who dislikes men has less to do with her and more to do with your own insecurities. It's possible you want to prove that you're not like the men she criticizes. It could also be about the thrill of breaking through her walls. This desire to feel chosen by someone who doesn't choose easily is rooted in a very human need, the need to feel worthy. But let's take a moment to think about her perspective. A woman who dislikes or openly criticizes men isn't necessarily full of hatred. Often, her feelings are shaped by her experiences. Maybe she's been hurt in the past, betrayed by people she trusted, let down by partners, or repeatedly subjected to toxic behaviors. Over time, these experiences can lead her to build a wall around herself, to protect her emotions and avoid future pain. Her hostility isn't always about you, or even all men. It's about what she's gone through. Yet, that very strength and guardedness can make her more intriguing. You might sense there's more to her than meets the eye. Beneath her hard exterior, there's likely a vulnerable side she rarely shows. And maybe, just maybe, you feel like you can be the one to uncover it. But here's where it gets complicated. Liking someone who doesn't seem to like you or actively resents the idea of you can be emotionally exhausting. It's easy to romanticize the idea of fixing her or winning her over. But relationships are not battles to be won. True connections are built on mutual understanding, trust, and respect, not on one person trying to change the other. Ask yourself, are you drawn to her personality, her uniqueness, or just the challenge she represents? Do you want to be with her for who she truly is? Or are you just trying to prove that you're good enough to break through her walls? It's also important to recognize that a woman who criticizes men may not actually hate them. Sometimes her words are a call for change, a reflection of the frustration she feels towards societal norms or negative experiences. She may not be rejecting you personally, but rather rejecting the patterns she's encountered. If this is the case, your role isn't to fix her or convince her to like you. It's to listen, to understand, and to respect her perspective. Here's the truth. You can't force someone to like you, and you can't erase their past pain by simply being kind or persistent. If you genuinely care for her, you have to be patient. Respect her boundaries, listen to her thoughts, and accept her for who she is, not for who you want her to become. Attraction to someone who seems unreachable or even hostile is a tale as old as time. But real, lasting relationships go beyond the initial spark of intrigue. They require effort from both sides. If she's guarded, you can't tear down her walls overnight. But if you approach her with genuine intentions and an open heart, she might let you see the real her. Still, it's important to know your limits. Loving someone who doesn't reciprocate your feelings or who holds resentment toward you or your gender can be a painful experience. Don't lose yourself in the process of trying to win someone over. Relationships should enhance your life, not drain it. So ask yourself, is this attraction rooted in who she is as a person or in the challenge she represents? Are you seeking a real connection or simply validation? If your feelings are genuine, focus on building mutual respect and understanding. Let go of the idea of fixing her. She's not a problem to be solved. Instead, meet her where she is and be honest about your own intentions. At the end of the day, the most meaningful relationships are based on equality, not power struggles or attempts to change each other. If you're drawn to her strength and independence, appreciate her for those qualities. And if she chooses to let you in, it will be because she sees you as someone worth trusting, not because you fought your way into her heart. Number 1. The idea of validation through relationships. Have you ever stopped to wonder why we sometimes seek relationships not out of genuine love or connection, but to feel validated? It's a subtle yet powerful force that drives many of our romantic pursuits, and one of the most intriguing aspects of this is the way we often seek validation from people who seem difficult to impress, unreachable, or even openly critical of us. It's almost as if we believe that winning their approval will make us more valuable, not just to them, but to ourselves. This dynamic can be especially strong when we're drawn to someone who seems hostile or dismissive. There's something deeply psychological about wanting to be chosen by someone who doesn't easily give their affection. It's as if their indifference or resistance makes their approval more meaningful, more valuable. We start to believe that if we can get this person, who rejects most others, to choose us, then it must mean we're special. It's not just about love at that point. It's about proving something to ourselves. This need for validation often stems from a place of insecurity. Whether we're aware of it or not, we might be using relationships to fill gaps in our self-esteem. Instead of feeling whole and complete on our own, we look to others to affirm our worth. The harder that validation is to obtain, the more satisfying it feels when we finally get it. Or so we think. This is why we sometimes chase relationships that are clearly one-sided or emotionally exhausting, convincing ourselves that the payoff will be worth the effort. But here's the irony. Seeking validation through a relationship often leads to the opposite of what we truly need. When your self-worth is tied to someone else's opinion of you, especially someone who is distant or critical, you end up giving them a tremendous amount of power over your emotions. Your confidence rises and falls based on their approval, creating a cycle where you're constantly striving for something that feels just out of reach. It's also important to understand that validation-driven attraction isn't the same as love. Love is built on mutual respect, understanding, and connection. Validation, on the other hand, is about filling a void within yourself. It's not about the other person as much as it is about what their approval represents. And when that approval becomes your goal, you risk losing sight of who you are and what you truly want. People who seem unreachable or hostile often amplify this dynamic. Their resistance makes their approval feel more valuable, like a prize to be won. But the truth is, their resistance doesn't make their validation any more meaningful. In fact, basing your self-worth on someone else's affection, especially someone who doesn't value you equally, can be emotionally damaging. Instead of seeking validation through relationships, the real work lies in finding that validation within yourself. When you recognize your own worth, you stop chasing the approval of others and start focusing on building genuine, balanced connections. Relationships should enhance your life, not define it. They should be spaces where two people come together as equals, not where one person tries to earn the other's acceptance. So the next time you find yourself drawn to someone who feels unattainable or critical, ask yourself, is this about love or is it about validation? Are you genuinely connecting with this person or are you trying to prove something to yourself? The answer might surprise you and it might just set you free. Number 2. The psychology of attraction to the unattainable. Have you ever found yourself inexplicably drawn to someone who feels just out of reach? Someone whose aloofness, indifference, or even outright hostility only seems to deepen your desire for them? It's a phenomenon many of us experience, and while it may seem irrational on the surface, the truth is that this kind of attraction has its roots deep in human psychology. We're wired to want what we can't have, and the allure of the unattainable can spark feelings so intense that they're almost impossible to ignore. At the core of this attraction lies a simple yet powerful principle. Humans are motivated by challenges. The harder something, or someone, is to attain, the more valuable it appears in our minds. When a person seems distant, uninterested, or emotionally unavailable, it creates a sense of scarcity. And in psychology, scarcity often heightens desire. We subconsciously think, if I can just win this person over, it will prove how special or worthy I am. The challenge becomes a puzzle we feel compelled to solve, and the more elusive the answer, the more determined we become to figure it out. This attraction also taps into our need for validation. When someone is unattainable, their approval feels infinitely more valuable. It's not enough to be liked by just anyone. We want to be chosen by the person who seems to reject everyone else. We start to believe that if they finally open up to us, it will mean we're exceptional, different, or uniquely worthy of their attention. This chase for validation can become addictive, as the highs and lows of pursuing the unattainable mimic the rush of a roller coaster. But why are some people perceived as unattainable in the first place? It could be their confidence, independence, or the way they carry themselves without needing anyone's approval. Such traits can be intimidating, but they also create intrigue. These individuals exude a sense of mystery, making us wonder what lies beneath the surface. Their emotional distance or guarded nature makes them seem like a puzzle, complex and layered, someone who isn't easy to know. And it's human nature to want to uncover what's hidden. This dynamic is even more pronounced when someone is openly hostile or critical. While it might seem counterintuitive to be drawn to someone who doesn't treat you kindly, their rejection can sometimes trigger a deeper need to prove yourself. It's almost as if their disapproval becomes a challenge. If I can just get them to like me, it will prove my worth. This mindset can trap you in a cycle of chasing affection from someone who may never reciprocate it. Interestingly, the unattainable often holds a mirror to our own insecurities. Sometimes the people we pursue reveal something about ourselves that we're not ready to confront. For example, if you're drawn to someone who constantly pushes you away, it might reflect a deeper fear of rejection or abandonment. The chase becomes a way of distracting yourself from these fears, as you focus all your energy on winning them over instead of addressing your own vulnerabilities. However, while the allure of the unattainable can feel intoxicating, it's important to ask yourself, is this attraction about them or is it about you? Are you genuinely drawn to who they are as a person, or are you caught up in the challenge they represent? Relationships built on the pursuit of validation or the thrill of the chase rarely lead to true connection. In fact, they can leave you feeling drained, unfulfilled, and even resentful over time. True love and connection come from mutual understanding, respect, and effort. They're not about conquering someone's defenses or proving your worth through someone else's approval. The unattainable might spark your interest, but lasting relationships are built on reciprocity, not one-sided effort. So, the next time you find yourself drawn to someone who seems unreachable, take a step back. Reflect on what's driving your attraction. Are they truly the person you want, or are you chasing the feeling of overcoming the impossible? The answer might just change the way you approach love, desire, and connection in your life. Number 3. The balance between attraction and compatibility. Attraction is a powerful force. It can be instant, electric, and all-consuming, pulling you towards someone in ways that feel impossible to resist. But as intoxicating as attraction can be, it's only one piece of the puzzle when it comes to relationships. True, lasting love requires more than just a spark. It requires compatibility. And yet, many people get so caught up in the excitement of attraction that they overlook whether the person they're drawn to is truly a good fit for their life. So, what happens when attraction and compatibility don't align? You might find yourself irresistibly drawn to someone who excites you, challenges you, or even makes your heart race. But does that person understand your values, your goals, or your emotional needs? Often we confuse the intensity of attraction with the potential for a meaningful connection. We think, if I feel this strongly about them, it must mean we're meant to be. But feelings of attraction can be misleading, especially when they're fueled by mystery, challenge, or even unfulfilled desires. Attraction is often rooted in chemistry, in the way someone looks, speaks, or carries themselves. It's driven by biological instincts and emotional triggers. But compatibility, that's built on shared values, emotional understanding, and mutual respect. Compatibility asks the bigger questions. Do we see the world in similar ways? Can we communicate openly and honestly? Do we have similar goals for the future? These are the things that create the foundation for a lasting relationship, and they're not always present just because attraction exists. The challenge comes when you're deeply attracted to someone, but find that your compatibility is lacking. Maybe you have incredible chemistry, but struggle to hold a meaningful conversation. Or maybe you share passionate moments, but disagree on important life goals like family, career, or lifestyle. These differences can create friction over time, even if the initial attraction feels irresistible. One of the reasons we struggle to balance attraction and compatibility is that attraction often clouds our judgment. It's easy to overlook red flags when you're captivated by someone's charm or beauty. You might ignore the fact that they don't respect your boundaries, that your communication styles clash, or that their goals don't align with yours. The thrill of being around them can make these issues seem small at first, but as the relationship deepens, they become impossible to ignore. This doesn't mean that attraction isn't important. It absolutely is. But relying on attraction alone can lead to relationships that feel exciting in the moment, but lack the stability needed to last. On the other hand, focusing solely on compatibility without any attraction can feel stagnant or unfulfilling. The key is finding a balance between the two. A healthy relationship is one where attraction draws you together, but compatibility keeps you connected. It's about being with someone who not only excites you, but also supports you, understands you, and grows with you. This balance requires honesty with yourself and with the other person. You need to ask the tough questions. Am I attracted to who they are, or just the idea of them? Do our values align, or am I ignoring differences because I'm caught up in the chemistry? It also requires patience. Compatibility isn't always obvious right away. It takes time to get to know someone on a deeper level. Attraction might spark instantly, but compatibility grows through shared experiences, conversations, and moments of vulnerability. Sometimes, the most compatible relationships start as slow burns, where the attraction builds over time as you discover how well you fit together. Ultimately, the balance between attraction and compatibility is about finding someone who ignites your passion but also feels like home, someone who excites you and calms you, who challenges you and supports you. It's about understanding that while attraction may light the fire, compatibility is what keeps it burning. So, as you navigate relationships, take a step back and reflect. Don't let the thrill of attraction blind you to what truly matters. Look for the balance, the place where chemistry and connection meet. That's where you'll find the kind of love that lasts.